Starting off my top 5 this year is Overcooked 2, because it delivered exactly what I wanted in the sequel. More levels, more recipes, and more opportunities for my girlfriend and I to rage at each other. Don't get me wrong, the game isn't just glorified DLC levels. It does add a new ingredient throwing mechanic which not only adds an extra layer of skill, but it allowed the developers to create even wackier levels and gives you another element to screw up on. And that's what it's all about. Trying not to mess up because one mistake can have this domino effect which ruins any best laid plans you came into the level with. It is these moments that make it such a joy to play with others, as it creates discussion, and possibly a lot of tension. At the end of the day, when it was my non-gamer girlfriend that was more excited about the free update adding that extra star to achieve in each level, I can confidently say that it is such an accessible game that I would recommend it to anyone looking for a new co-op game. Similar to Overcooked 2, Super Smash Bros. Ultimate from a gameplay perspective is exactly what I expected and wanted. As a casual player, I can't appreciate all those balance changes that were implemented, but what I would like to celebrate right now is the care and attention to detail that went into crafting the World of Light encounters, or rather the Spirit system. I don't care for the numbers game where you're raising power levels, but what I do care about is the game's ability to reach further into all of these franchises and see how it interprets them in-game. These encounters feature extra conditions as a way to imitate or at least nod to their original game. So when fighting Dr. Light, you're fighting a Dr. Mario with Mega Man protecting him. Or one that took me a minute to figure out was against Detective Pikachu, which was a fight against Pikachu, but 4 exact-looking copies would enter the fray, and you had to essentially decipher which was the real one. This detail is also apparent in the Classic mode, where each player has their own set of fights to go through, which revolve around a certain theme. So for example, Fire Emblem's Ike is against black color palette characters, because in his original game, the Black Knight was his antagonist. Or how the Pokemon Trainer's path is what you'd expect, fighting each of the playable Pokemon before facing another Pokemon trainer and then finishing with Mewtwo. But my favourite detail was with Street Fighter's Ryu, whose story differs because all his fights are of stamina, in other words health, and they are all on the Omega versions of the stages featuring character themes from Street Fighter with their Smash counterparts as in the Spirit mode mentioned previously. Of course it's still a great party game, but it's these kind of details that push it beyond just another fighting game and shows that single player content can be made well for these types of games. 'Getting into top 3 territory, what takes third place for me is the game I was most looking forward to this year. Into the Breach comes from the same developers that created one of my favourite games of all time, FTL Faster Than Light. But rather than journeying through space, Into the Breach pits your 3 mechs against hordes of kaijus as you try to protect your cities across different continents. In conjunction with the kaiju theme is an element of time travel, which plays into this idea of multiple playthroughs. Each of your lost campaigns is merely a failed timeline, so you're able to take one of your pilots through to your next campaign. This time travel is also part of the game mechanic, where time pods featuring equipment or pilots can spawn on a map, adding another objective to protect. The game itself looks like a typical turn-based strategy game on a grid, but the emphasis is on positioning. Neither your units nor the enemies have a large range of options, so being resourceful by using the terrain, manipulating enemy attacks, or even throwing yourself in harm's way are all necessary tactics to learn. These methods are translated well into the various different teams of mechs you're given, where each team tends to specialize in a style of play. One team literally wants to set the map on fire, while another uses non-lethal push and pull weapons to position the enemy to attack each other. There is this surprisingly large amount of depth on these small randomly generated encounters. If you're a person who felt FTL was maybe unfair, then I would suggest you give Into the Breach a try, as I feel the balance is more than fair where any losses were because of my own inability, and I personally enjoyed making decisions like sacrificing a city or even my own pilot's life for the good of the mission. Don't mess up this timeline and miss out on Into the Breach. Two Point Hospital is a game that genuinely made me smile this year, due to its humorous presentation while at the same time being a solid building management game. In charge of creating a portfolio of hospitals, the game is split into levels that drip feed you new mechanics to deal with, most of the time in the form of creative new illnesses. These illnesses make your patients engaging, as patients suffering from lightheadedness come in with light bulbs instead of heads, or those suffering from animal magnetism have animals stuck all over their body. Then the cures for these also follow the same humour, as those suffering from a jest infection are just clowns, cured via the clown clinic room, where they are bombarded with sad images within the dehumidifier. Then there's the lovable intercom lady and radio host, who just wrap up this presentation. The radio helps almost create a sense of world building, which is a pleasant surprise in a game segregated by levels. while the intercom lady just made me smile every time she spoke a new line, such as, "We're sorry for the litter that you dropped on our floor." But best of all, every time I use a public toilet, all I can hear is, "Please leave the toilets as you'd hope to find them, not as you'd expect to find them." I've been described as the sarcastic one of my group of friends, and she's just a woman after my own heart. But moving on from the presentation, the game comes across as a very casual kind of building game, emphasized by the visuals, but in reality, there's so much more depth to this game. And the best part is that it's optional, and thus can appeal to a wide range of people. You can look at each individual person's needs, edit the queues accordingly, assign workers to only perform specific tasks, and much more. Even your staff come with randomized quirks that you could ignore if you wanted, but if you want to micromanage your staff to the max, the game lets you. The UI has also been designed in a way that allows you to easily do all these things, and just the general building controls are what you would hope them to be. Overall, if you're looking for a building game with bucket loads of charm and a surprising amount of depth, pick up 2 Point Hospital. You won't regret it, unlike visiting any of my hospitals. Someday I'll get that No Death award. So I'm going to put it simply. A Way Out is my number 1 game of the year for 2018 because it is the game I want to see more of. I don't mean A Way Out 2. What I'm referring to is the idea of creating a co-op only game and creating systems to cater for that brief. A lot of the time co-op just means player 2 is a copy of player 1 except maybe a skin. Think Halo, Gears of War, Lego games, or I guess in Mario Odyssey you're less than that, you're a hat. A Way Out tells the story of Leo and Vincent through what is a fairly cliché betrayal and revenge plot. Of course, the word cliché is associated with negativity, but in this case I didn't mind that the plot was typical, because the characters, along with the great voice acting and set pieces, help create genuine motivations that drew me in as the player. Leo and Vincent are wonderful characters who you see develop with each other, but also personally. This is helped by this forced split screen. Even online the game is in split screen, which of course helps with informing both players what is going on in the game, but it also does a good job increasing or decreasing your half of the screen to indicate important plot points. And not only that, but by seeing the way the other character acts, it makes your character more unique seeing them side by side. Like I said, there is character development, and although Leo comes across as the aggressive, spontaneous one, there's a real sense of humility when it comes to the caravan park, and you see him interact with his family. Likewise, Vincent is portrayed as a calm one, but there are moments when Leo is the one that settles Vincent. The bond between these characters, as you see them help each other grow, is heartwarming regardless of the overarching plot. The actual gameplay is essentially a load of mini-games and quick-time events, which try to get you involved with the mundane tasks that these characters have to do, which although not the most interesting, does what it needs to do. Where the game is at its best is when it's most cinematic. I've already hinted at the camera as you're playing the game, but the choreography and the set piece is what makes this game great. There's a hospital escape scene that has your 2 characters separated, where there is this unbroken camera shot that jumps between the 2, briefly giving back control to the respective players, as the tension and drama rises. This goes on for 9 minutes, and it is the best 9 minutes of this game, and I'm pretty certain after that session, I said to Nick, I want to see more games like this. So there you have it, my top 5 games of the year ends with A Way Out. Hope you all have a wonderful holiday and play lots of video games, especially those on this list.